Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining today's AIA Sharing Best Practice webinar. My name is Brian Kent, and I'll be chairing this session, which will focus on some exciting trials in Birmingham and digging a bit deeper into Birmingham's approach to innovation and sustainability, as well as the technologies involved. Joining me today are four top men who were instrumental in the planning and execution of progress in Birmingham, who fortunately for us are available and willing to give us some more detail and share their learns and outputs from the trials. So gents, can I ask you to introduce yourself please before we begin? Can we start with you please, Thomas?
Hello everyone, I'm Thomas Clarkson Williams. I'm the Highway Safety Manager at Birmingham City Council, and I've been given the task of delivering the IWP, the Interim Works Programme on behalf of the city with the help of all the stakeholders.
Thank you. Mark Goslin.
Hi, I'm Mark Goslin. I'm General Manager for Tarmac's contracting business in the Midlands. I've been working on the Birmingham contract now back since 2019. Tarmac have been involved for the last 10 years or more. We instigated the resetting up of the contract in 2019 with Thomas and others to get up the collaborative framework to get the contract back on track.
Okay, thank you. Richard, please.
I'm Richard Taylor. Good morning, everybody. I'm the Global Technical Development Manager for Shell Bitumen, and we've been working closely with Tarmac on innovative binders and low-carbon binders for quite some time, and we provided the binders and support to the Birmingham contract to Tarmac.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mark.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mark Murray-Earp, and I'm a Technical Director for Arcadis, where I head the pavements and materials function in the UK. My role and my team's role for the BHL contract is as principal designer, and so we collaborated with all of the other stakeholders involved to deliver the designs for the scheme.
Super. So, thanks everybody. Thomas, can we start with you, please? And can you tell us a little bit about Birmingham's sustainability targets, drivers, and why sustainability is so important to Birmingham?
Before I talk about Birmingham's sustainability targets, I'll probably just give you how the highways program gets into it. Obviously, the contract for delivering our highways works was given to a PFI contractor, and then we had some issues which meant that we had to restructure the contract and start over again in delivering some of our roadworks. That meant that the city had greater control as to what was happening on the highways program. Now, that highways program was led by my team, and in order to deliver our works on our program, we had to adhere to the city's policy on sustainability. Now, the city had declared a climate change emergency in 2019, and they had set up a team called the Route to Zero. The Route to Zero has policies and strategies in driving the reduction of carbon across the whole city. Now, the highways program, which we were tasked to deliver, had to come up with measures and means of delivering our works, whilst taking into account the reduction in carbon. So the city's target, sustainability target, was to obviously to reduce carbon to zero by 2030. As well as making it in line with the government's target as well. So what we did was to ensure that we maintain that policy across all our activities, from design, construction, as well as management, and that's what our team was tasked to do. So we set up a sustainability task group as part of the collaboration team that we set up, Birmingham included in it, with all our stakeholders, to ensure that we still drive the sustainability targets of Birmingham through all our activities where we can. So it's very important to us because we have declared a climate change emergency.
Okay, thank you. So, Mark Gosling, as the incumbent contractor in Birmingham, can you tell us how you originally got involved and take us on the journey following Birmingham's request with regard to collaborative and strategic partners to deliver?
Yeah, we've had a great relationship with Birmingham over the last 10, 15 years, Brian. We previously worked with the previous PFI contractor, Amy. But as Thomas said, that when that contract needed restructuring, we got involved in 2019 with what was called at the time priority schemes, and we supported Birmingham in getting those priority schemes over the line and getting the works on the highways that were identified by Thomas and to get the network in Birmingham back up to standard. Following on from that, we were then asked to be involved in the collaborative framework that was put together once Kia had been appointed as the maintenance contractor within Birmingham. So I worked closely with Kia and Thomas and his team and BHL and Arcadis to put together a collaborative framework based on the ISO 44001 process. We didn't get ourselves signed up to the 44001. We didn't feel that was necessary, but the structure and framework that requires was really useful to get the contract onto a real collaborative, sure footing with good procedures, etc., to help you manage the contract. One of those procedures involves setting up working groups. So, for example, there's a safety working group, there was a cost working group, but importantly for this, there was a sustainability working group, which Thomas was part of. That working group was then able to target where we could bring sustainable ideas, new methods, new procedures, and so on into the network within Birmingham, and use the Birmingham network as almost a trial bed for trying new ideas and for developing carbon reducing products, longer lasting products, and all that kind of thing. It was a really successful collaboration. It's coming to an end, well, as of this week, Thomas, isn't it? We've completed the last contract now, which we started in 2020. The last contract on that is finishing now. We've delivered tens of millions of pounds worth of work through the collaborative framework very safely, highly collaboratively, but more importantly, as the guys will go on to shortly, we've delivered a lot of trials, a lot of new materials in there, which will help Birmingham in the future develop their network with sustainable procedures, so they can develop the network further. Hopefully we'll be involved in the future, but we await to see where that contract will be awarded. Brian, one thing we also did, or part of the trials that we did, was when we completed the IWP schemes, we did over 500 individual jobs, and part of the trials and part of the drive for sustainability, we used a number of those schemes to use these alternative products that will get talked about shortly, by replacing some of the binder courses and some of the surface courses within those schemes to use as trial areas.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Mark, can you tell us about the part Arcadis have played in supporting Birmingham, please, in terms of how did you identify what to trial, where did you try it, when, etc.?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. That's a great question. Well, as I've said in my sort of opening intro, we were the principal designer on all of the IWP schemes. And for us, it really started with what our design process was and how we went about identifying opportunities within those design processes, in particular areas that we would perhaps traditionally call value engineering. We've also aligned our sustainability processes to as well. So it was fairly early on, as Thomas has outlined, we needed to respond to the climate emergency because that's fixed. That's what the requirements of the client are. And as you've also heard, we formed the Sustainability Task and Finish Group as part of the 4400 process. That group ran for over 3 years. Initially, what the task of the group was to identify specific materials, processes, or opportunities that we could align to the sustainability requirements of the client. For those that don't know, the road network in Birmingham is devolved into hierarchies, and it runs hierarchy 1 through to hierarchy 4, with hierarchy 1 being, say, a fairly principal route, and hierarchy 4 being something, like a cul-de-sac or a very low trafficked road. And we then took to look at the 16 opportunities that we'd identified initially. How many of those in reality could we bring to bear on the network, and in particular, which parts of the network we could utilize them on? So, some of the key headline materials that we'd identified from that were biogenic binder in the asphalt, and also in the lining materials, warm mix asphalt as well. Of course, it's a very key staple of what we do. Also quick and slow viscoelastic materials, as well as age-resisting binders and a number of other things. And from this group, we set about identifying which schemes and where we were going to deploy those particular technologies, how we were going to do them, how the trials would work, what information we would want to collect from those trials, because it's a great opportunity to learn. And once we'd done that, as we'll hear a little bit later, we compiled a report, a dossier, if you like, of all of the findings we'd achieved from it.
Sounds like a big jigsaw puzzle to me. So, Richard, having listened to all that, we ended up at Shell's door. Can you tell us a bit more about the Shell Innovative Binders, please?
Yeah, sure, Brian. Obviously, Shell Bitumen have invested a lot in R&D over decades, and a lot of the focus at the beginning of the process has been around the function of the binder and how to cope with the engineering demands of asphalt pavements. But certainly for the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a very, very strong focus on sustainability. And we've seen road agencies, we heard from Thomas at the beginning of this session, making formal commitments to net zero or to declare climate emergencies. And that's really made us home in on a couple of really key areas of where we think we can contribute as a binder supplier. One is around biogenic substitution, and so for those that perhaps don't know, a biogenic material is simply one that's been grown by the removal of carbon dioxide from the air in photosynthesis. So we're talking about plant matter, generally speaking. So we're talking about a renewable resource that can be substituted for bitumen in pavement construction and the birth of the biogenic binders. And this has led us to the development of our product that we call Carbon Sink. And then the second area where we've really put a lot of focus is around pavement life, both understanding pavement life and how to extend pavement life. And so we have some novel binders that are based on a new technology which allows us to slow down the rate at which the bitumen is aging, with the aim of prolonging the life. And so we've been working on those products within our own R&D for quite some time. And as you know, Brian, we also had discussions and with Tarmac. We did the first age safe trials on the National Highway Network with Tarmac a couple of years ago. And we've been trialing these innovative binders with a view to helping local authorities and the National Highways Authority with their net zero plans.
So one of them is about really reducing the carbon footprint of the material as laid, and the other's reducing the carbon footprint through durability, longer lasting materials. So both quite exciting things to be looking at.
Exactly.
So Thomas, with R&D and trials potentially comes risk. How's that been viewed in Birmingham and apportioned during these activities?
Well, R&D is something which Birmingham takes quite seriously, though we don't sort of broadcast it too much. But we decided that it would be a good time for us to ensure that in order for us to address the climate change challenge, that we should try and trial these materials and products to see whether they are fit for purpose or whether they address the issues that we have in our city. Now, as Mark mentioned, the task group sort of identified areas where these innovative products or activities can be utilized in our program. So we actually came up with a methodology of how these new activities and products can be used on our network. And thanks to Tarmac and Arcadis, who worked closely together to ensure that sites were identified, the right materials were used. we were able to sort of like come up with a protocol of how things are taken through and how they can be monitored in the long term. So Birmingham has looked at it quite closely and are quite happy with what has been proposed and how we plan to take it forward. It's something which we really want to sort of like pick up in the long term, because as we all know, climate change is here. Somebody said that we're no longer warming up, we're boiling. And which means that we need to take this quite seriously and ensure that the right products, irrespective of how much they cost, should be put on our network.
So you minimise risk basically by careful, proactive planning, by the sounds of it.
Yes, well, that's what it is. It's looking at what the problem is, and then finding the proper solutions for the problem, whilst addressing the sustainability targets that we have. It is a risk, but of course, we develop some protocols to ensure that the risk to failure of the product or to the service is shared amongst the stakeholders. Even though, for example, Tarmac will bring a product, there are areas where the risk was shared, and we had protocols in place to ensure that if it didn't work, what we would do, and if it worked, also what we would do. And this was apportioned in throughout the activities, from designs to construction, as well as the monitoring of the activities going forward.
Which is fantastic, because without acceptance of some form of risk, then we stand still. No innovation is dead without someone taking a little bit of risk. So anyway, Thomas, it sounds very impressive, and it's obviously credit to all involved. What is Birmingham's view of progress, and have you had any feedback within Birmingham? And I also understand Birmingham also picked up an industry-related award. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I'll start off with the award. We have picked up two awards on decarbonization and sustainability. The most coveted one was the 2023 Sustainability Award issued by the Chartered Institute of Highways and Transportation, which was given to us in London, and we've won several other regional awards as well on sustainability, and this is all due to the collaborative efforts that we have put into this, because it's not only Birmingham, but of course the team that supported Birmingham that helped us to win these awards, and it was received quite well by the councillors, the highways team, and all the teams as well, who were quite interested in how we got to where we got to, and ensuring that we had the awards. So, in as much as we could have done more, but it was appreciated that the effort we put in did go a long way, and it was worth the award.
Good. So, Mark, I understand that CADIS published a report on all the activities recently. What have been the key learns, and how do you think the work in Birmingham can be built on now?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Yes, that's correct. We did indeed publish a report. We wanted to create a record of what had been done. Clearly, that's very important. And we wanted for others in the future to have the benefit of that record, and that's very clear from all the parties involved. You know, now that we've done this work, we clearly don't want to have to start again. So we've made a record of what we've done and captured the results, the key findings, what worked well, what perhaps didn't work so well, so that people don't have to go over the same ground again, if you like. And the key aspiration from that was just to create this deposit of knowledge for future generations, for the roads of Birmingham and perhaps beyond. But you asked me also what were the key learning points. And you'll perhaps remember that I said in one of your previous questions that we had initially quite a large list of things. And I think the key thing in all of that is that not everything you do works. Sometimes you have to try things, perhaps even in the laboratory or at the asphalt plant before it gets out to site. But perhaps sometimes it doesn't work. probably the most important thing was collaboration, and you've heard a lot of the presenters mention that this morning. Collaboration by far and away was the key. Without that, we wouldn't have achieved so much, and perhaps have possibly been recognised for quite so many awards, as Thomas said. Being open to try new things, that's also very, very key. And under the traditional contact approach, that perhaps wouldn't have been possible either. So perhaps that's another learning point, that when we work as organisations with other parties, how we go about doing that work is also important too.
Thanks for a very interesting session, gents. Thanks for your participation today. Congratulations on all that has been achieved, and we'll look forward to future progress in Birmingham and additional information on the trial sections as time goes by. Thanks for joining us.